Okay, so this is the recording for the first part of the lymphatic system. So this unit is going to cover part of the cardiovascular and the immune system. With the lymphatic system and the cardiovascular system, you have the anatomical names. The terms immunity system and circulatory systems are the physiological terms. So there are 4 chapters on these two systems. The lymphatic system is in chapter 21, blood, heart, and blood vessels are in the other 3 chapters, 18 through 20. I divide it so that we put lymph with blood. There's a reason that we put lymph with blood is because that they share certain cells. All right, so this is an overview of the system. This is a couple of leukocytes. So we'll take a look again at the functions of the system. Circulation of lymph, components of the system, cells involved. Now, with the lymphatic system, you can also call it the lymph system. In typical anatomical drawings, the lymphatic system structures are going to be green, except for the spleen and the thymus, which are up here. So we'll start with the components of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system, again, is part immunity and part circulation. So you have lymph, which is a fluid and tissue similar to blood. Lymphatic vessels or lymph vessels, a series of tubes that transport and circulate lymph. The lymph tissues, which are embedded in certain organs and carry out immune activities. Lymph organs that have multiple tissues. So, functions for the system. There are 3 general functions for this system: fluid and electrolyte balance. The lymphatic system is a source a source for fluids and electrolytes. It's a place to store it. It's a place to move it from one place to another. So we have 2 circulating pathways in the body, the cardiovascular and the lymphatic system. A second general function is the immune response. Now, I am not an expert in immunity. I am giving an anatomical overview of the immune activities. There's an entire class that you can take in immunology. Another similar course, which looks at the causing agents, is microbiology. So, some, but not all, of immune responses includes identifying antigens, producing antibodies, inflammation, and allergic responses. Again, there are many others that are also part of this large volume of activities. These are a few. The third general function is absorption of lipids, and that's specifically within the small intestine. So that's kind of more of a specific function, but it is considered one of the three. So you only have three general functions for the lymphatic system. Couple of terms that we just used that we need to define. Antigens, anything that the body is going to view as foreign. Types of antigens include pathogens, which are disease-causing organisms, toxins, which are chemicals that act as poisons, allergens, which are materials that cause allergic reactions, and those can vary. The response can vary. So with allergens, it could be a chemical like latex. It could be a type of food. Some people become lactose intolerant, and that's because it's now something their body doesn't want to be around. It could be a type of cell, pollen. A lot of people are allergic to pollens, hay fever, and that's plant sperm, and agglutinogens. They're a special type of antigen that we actually make ourselves. We're not going to make the ones that we respond to, but if they're exposed to somebody else. Okay, antigen. Antibodies are proteins that we make in order to deal with certain antigens. This is a representation here of an antibody. Antibodies, again, are proteins, so they're going to have a specific organization and deal with specific antigen. So with the antibody, you have what we call constant regions, and that's the green portion and the purple portion. They're the same in every antibody. The yellow parts are the parts that are specific to different antigens. We make thousands of different kinds of antibodies. We make thousands of antibodies every day as part of our way of keeping our body healthy. Now, sometimes the body gets overwhelmed with the antigens, and then we see other problems. Okay. Lymph, again, a type of tissue, typically clear to colorless, similar to blood. The big difference is it has less proteins and more lipids. The other components include lymphocytes, macrophages, electrolytes, and many kinds of debris. So the lymphocytes and macrophages are the cellular components of the tissue. It's produced through the process of osmosis, meaning that no energy exerted. Interstitial fluid, excess interstitial fluid is pushed into the lymphatic vessels. Part of this is going to move the fluids into blood vessels, but part of it goes into the lymphatic vessels. And here we see lymphatic vessels next to the blood vessels. Let's use purple because it's different than all of them. Okay, so you can see that the lymphatic vessels are right next to the blood vessels. Okay. Lymph capillaries. Now the circulation of lymph. Lymph capillaries are microscopic, closed-ended tubes. There we go. So there's a beginning made out of endothelium. In the cardiovascular and the lymph system, you can use the term endothelium instead of simple squamous epithelium. The location of these is next to blood capillaries. The endothelial cells are loosely overlapped. So you can see a piece here and you can see a piece here. When the fluid is high, interstitial fluid level is high, it pushes it in, pushes other materials in. When the pressure is low, they're going to close. So opening, high pressure opens up the gaps. Low pressure means that they close up. So lymph capillaries, they're the smallest. You have the same kind of tissues in blood capillaries as lymph capillaries. The blood capillaries happen to be open at both ends. Lymph capillaries are not. Now, because we keep dumping more fluid in here, it's going to keep moving. Can I find, there we go. So we keep dumping fluid, and so it accumulates, and so it keeps pushing it into the next bigger tube. The medium-sized tubes are called lymph vessels. They had another term and then they changed. They're medium-sized tubes. They're an organ because they have 3 layers of tissue. They surround a lumen, which is where the lymph fluid is found. They receive lymph from lymph capillaries, so that's their function. They transport into and out of lymph nodes before emptying into the next size tube, which is a lymph trunk. Now here, we only see the endothelium layer, which is continuous with the lymph capillary. Outside of it, there would be smooth muscle tissue and then areolar tissue and dense tissue. So traits that they share with arteries is the fact that they have thick layers of smooth muscle tissue, just like arteries do. So that helps propel the fluid inside. It's called peristalsis. And then with veins, they have these semilunar valves. Again, they work by pressure. When the pressure is high, the valve opens. When the pressure drops, the valve closes. So that's the feature they share with veins. Now, we will identify the 3 layers of tissues when we do the blood vessel chapter, which is 20, and that will be in the next unit. So these are going to be the medium size, probably the most numerous vessels. Now, you're going to see the use of the terms afferent and efferent. We also use the terms convergent and divergent. So in a lymph node, you're going to have several incoming or afferent vessels going into the lymph node, but you're only going to have one efferent or exiting lymph vessel. So lots going in, less coming out. That allows the lymph node to do its job by carrying out immune activities. So lots of entrances, arriving fluid, several exits. Okay, here in the axillary region, in the axillary region and in the breast tissue, you have more lymph vessels and lymph nodes than you do in any other part of the body. So lymph trunks are the large tubes with the same 3 layers of tissue as the lymph vessels. They're just bigger around. They have a bigger lumen. Their function is to drain lymph from regions of the body. And so we have down here, we have an intestinal trunk. We have lumbar trunks. There is a upper limb trunk, upper limb trunk. The lower limb are going to dump into the lumbar, the intestine and abdomen dump into the intestinal trunks. Then we have the cisterna chyli, and that's this enlargement down here. You have an enlarged lymph trunk found in the abdomen where 4 lymph trunks converge, the 2 intestinal trunks and the 2 lumbar trunks. So a cistern is like a dumping area. All right. Okay. The extra large tubes are called lymph trunks. Lymph trunks, yeah, there are 2 of them, or lymph duct, there are 2 of them. They receive lymph from the right arm, the right lymph duct anyway, receives lymph from the right arm, the right side of the head, neck, and thoracic region. So it's the area here that's shaded purple. All of those are going to dump into the right subclavian vein so that the lymph comes back into the bloodstream. The thoracic duct receives lymph from below the diaphragm, the left arm, the left side of the head, neck, and thoracic cavity. That side is going to empty into the left subclavian vein. So most of the lymph is going to go into the thoracic duct, and part of it goes into the right lymphatic duct. If we go back to this picture, you can see the thoracic duct here and the right lymphatic duct here. Now, the reason that everything below the diaphragm goes into that is because that's cisterna chyli, and that's going to empty into the left subclavian vein, whereas the right one empties into the right subclavian vein. Those veins are large enough to withstand the influx of that volume of tissue. When someone has a central line put in, the catheter is going to be inserted and be placed somewhere near that or in that subclavian vein, because the volume of materials can go into circulation. Then we have lymphatic tissues. The lymphatic tissues are embedded in different organs. These first two, and these pictures are from the chapter 25. All right, so lacteals are enlarged lymph capillaries at the center of the villi in the small intestines. They absorb lipids. Lacteals, lipids absorption. So each villi is this finger-like projection. Each villus is singular, villi is plural. So it's bigger than a typical lymph capillary. The second type of lymphatic tissue are the Peyer's patches. Lymph nodules embedded in the ileum's mucosa. The ileum is the last part of the small intestine. And that's what we see down here. There are three parts to the small intestine: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The Peyer's patches are embedded in the mucosa. So if we look at this picture up here, they would be embedded in here. They filter antigens released during digestion. So as materials are digestion, or as digestion happens in the small intestine, materials are going to move into and get absorbed into the blood and lymph systems. So this is going to act as a filter. But again, it's only it's throughout the small intestine. Okay, just, I guess, in the ileum portion. And that's where most of the absorption takes place. Peyer's patches. Okay, and that will be the end of part A of the lymphatic system.